Hi friends, this is Krish, the Urban Naxal. Friends, I am in the process of describing a widespread global scam. A few friends have responded to me saying, "Hey Krish, we have scams everywhere. There have been scams at all times. So we have, for example, the Nigerian scam. We know what it is. We know what scams are. What's new? What is it that you're saying that's new? What's different?" Okay, here's what I'm trying to put across. I'm not necessarily the best spokesman for this cause. It is possible that a more corporate sort of a guy, instead of me, would probably have been a better explainer of what is new. But unfortunately, corporate guys, most of them, don't want to talk about the phenomenon. And so here I am struggling with my limited vocabulary to explain to you what's going on. Now here's what's going on. Again, I'm going to put this across to you one more time, hoping that somewhere someone gets it, and someone who gets it then acts upon it or joins me in acting upon it. What we have here is a mainstreaming of scamming. Scamming has now become mainstream. It has become respectable. It has become so respectable that it stops attracting attention, stops attracting anybody's notice. It has become so respectable that it is actually very suspicious to call attention to it. And anyone who calls attention to it, who points at it, who shouts about it, is seen to be a crank, is seen to be an anti-establishment guy or deluded or something like that. So what is the crux of what is going wrong? The crux of what is going wrong is that without due processes, your money is being taken away from you. Now, who's the you I'm addressing? Whom am I addressing? I'm addressing normal human beings, normal folks in the civilized world, normal urban folks, people who live by selling goods, by selling services, or by doing their jobs. Who is the they? Who's the other side? The other side whom I speak of is corporates, companies. Hey, but companies are also made of people, right? Exactly, they are made of people. And when the companies act as companies, the people are acting sort of, so to speak, possessed by the spirit of the company, by the spirit of what that company does, and that is where they get paid a salary. They get paid a salary because they do what the company wants them to do. And it is not a kind of collective evil doing. It doesn't feel evil when you're doing it. You're just executing a policy. You are just playing a certain role. But when it comes together, the whole of it comes together, and you look at it from a bird's eye view, you see that the company, the corporate, is acting in a predatory way, or it is acting in a parasitical way on society. It is targeting human beings, normal people, and it is doing so in a way that is, well, what can I say? Predatory. Predatory is roughly the best way I can express it. There have been such phenomena earlier, but I struggle with words to express what I need to express. The crux of what I have been saying all along is this: a legitimate reason for a company to take away your money, take your money, not take away, take your money, is if it enters into a transaction with you, if it gives you something of value, be it goods or services, and if it takes money from you, which is the value of those goods and services, that is a legitimate transaction. However, if it pretends or if it induces you to believe that there is a transaction about to happen, mark my words, about to happen, not happening yet. And if it induces you to believe that the transaction that happens, if it happens, when it happens, will change your life, will make you a happy man, and it enters into the semblance of a transaction. Now it is not a transaction because it is not yet giving you that thing which is supposed to make you happy. It doesn't actually render the goods and services to you, but it front ends your payments. It takes payment from you in the form of earnest money, in the form of application money, large amounts of money. And it entraps you into a situation where it has not entered into a transaction with you. It has in fact withheld. It has not said that I will give you the goods. It has said, hey, listen, you have given me your money, but I am not yet going to give you the goods. I have not agreed to give you the goods. You have agreed to give me the money. You have begged me to give the money. And you have begged me to take the money from you. This kind of a situation is created, this kind of a paperwork and this kind of a mindset is created among the individuals who are practically begging the corporate entity to take their money and give them that dream product. And then there are 2 or 3 different ways it plays out. One way it plays out is it casts a number of conditions upon them, terms and conditions, which are written into the paperwork. The paperwork is not contractual paperwork. It is not a paperwork which indicates an actual transaction. It casts duties upon the person giving the money, such as, thou shalt give me the money between this date and that date. Thou shalt give me the money in this form. If thou faileth to give me thine money, then I shall impose these penalties upon you. If thou failest to give me the money the next time I ask it, then I shall impose penalties upon you. I shall fine you heavily. I shall take away whatever money you have given. This kind of conditions, onerous conditions, are cast upon the other side, the person who has already given money, and thereby he has entered into a state of weakness because the money is now in the possession of the company. And then, having put people into this situation, it proceeds to take away the money because, breach of the conditions. Now, breach of conditions that you cast upon them. Okay, to make things even cleverer, the conditions are not cast upon them by the company. The paperwork is created in such a way that the conditions are accepted voluntarily, knowingly, with open eyes by the individuals who are giving the money. So all the conditions are written not in the form of the company saying, you shall do this, you shall do that, you shall do this. That's not how it is written. The way it's written is, I understand that you are taking my money. I understand that if I don't fulfill this, then I will forfeit the amount. I understand that you are fully entitled to forfeit my amount, that is, confiscate my money. I understand that you are not conferring any rights upon me, and so on. This is the shape of the paperwork, and with this kind of a paperwork, the money the company is entitled to take away the money. Now, is it really entitled in law? Does law entitle them? No, it does not. Law stipulates that the only point of time when you can actually take away money is if there is a transaction and if there is a binding contract. And then maybe you can take away people's money without giving them anything in return if they breach that contract. And if they have entered into that contract with open eyes, willingly, knowingly, giving willing and informed consent to that contract. The way it is being done is, there is no willing consent. Consent is hijacked. There is no knowing consent. Usually people have wool pulled over their eyes. They don't know what's going on. They distinctly don't know what's going on, and in fact, they are shown a bunch of red herrings. They are, diverted by saying, okay, you give the money within 15 days, and if you don't give the money within 15 days, we are going to take away your money. So what happens is that deadline of 15 days, which is completely arbitrary, is a deadline which people are likely to breach. That's the way it is organized. But there is no contract yet. There is no contractual agreement with the company. And the money, after 15 days pass, the company shrugs and says, well, sorry boss, what can we do? You didn't give us the money in 15 days. You didn't give us more money in 15 days. So whatever money you've given us amounts to a lot of money. Sorry, we are taking it away. What to do? And what is implied is what follows afterwards is begging, pleading on the knees, all kind of cajoling. People say, oh, please give me back my money, please give me back my money. But this is like people who have fallen into quicksand. Every time they make a move, they are usually digging themselves deeper and deeper into the mud. The way this works is that the company then engages them in a kind of paperwork which makes them accept the entire onus, responsibility on themselves, ends up giving a kind of a waiver to the company, saying, oh, it was because of me that I did not succeed in giving the money to you, giving you more money. I already gave you a lot of money, but I'm sorry I did not give you more money because I was unable to, because family reasons, because livelihood reasons, and my salary did not come on time, etc., etc., all of which takes the cause of the thing on, the people blame themselves in this process and ask for mercy from the company. Companies, I want to add, companies are projecting themselves as authority figures, and these companies say, this is our policy. Our policy is that if you don't pay more money before this deadline expires, we will take away your money. And it's almost, the sound of authority is almost like a government body saying this. Now, if the government were to say this, if the tax authorities were to say it, possibly there would be a measure of, I could say, fairness. Because when state does something, when constitutional authorities do something, it has a different dimension. They are part of your country. They have been voted into power. I'm not condoning any of it, but I'm just saying that they can be held accountable. People can be held, the government can be held accountable. But when a private company does this, but poses as if it has the authority of state, of government, when it, kind of projects authority and people accept that authority, there's a scam going on there. It's a very deep scam. And it's so deep, it's so pervasive that it has this air of authority which everybody in government, in police, in judiciary takes for granted. It is as if the company which is taking away the money without a transaction, without a contract, with arbitrary terms and conditions, is de facto right, is by default the right thing. It's doing the right thing. And it is so mainstream. It is so pervasive. It is done in such a normalized manner. Is this the first time normalization of criminal activities has happened? No. It has happened earlier. Let me give you an example of when criminal actions were normalized and then how the world denormalized them. I will give you examples which happened in India, but I'm pretty sure happened in other places. You say the word coffee plantation or rubber plantation, okay, and it conjures up pictures of slavery. Slavery in India, slavery in other places like Brazil, plantation. When you say plantation workers, it conjures up pictures of bonded labor and slavery. Now, what were typically plantation workers or bonded laborers? Here's what they were, and here's how they got made. Here, to begin with, you have a family of farmers who need funds for some emergency. They go to a money lender. A money lender is someone with a lot of prestige, the company of those days. They represent establishment, they represent societal power and authority. Say the neighborhood goldsmith, or there were figures in the village, figureheads indeed, who were universally respected. And people went to them asking for a small loan. And they got the small loan. The small loan was approved. And as that small loan was approved, it was, as I said, a small loan. A loan that would allow the family to tide over a bad crop or a bad monsoon, where they had run out of money and they needed money to subsist for the next 1 month or 2 months. The loan was sometimes in kind. Bags of rice, for example, would be a loan. And then there would be conditions to the loan which the person blindly accepted. And he would put his thumbprint to that condition. There was a record keeper. The record keeper, in India we call them Munimji, Mehtaji. He is an accountant. He's a normal guy. He's close to the landlord, the chief, the village chief, or whoever it is who's doing the lending. He's a normal guy. But he's just all about figures and rules. He doesn't care about anything other than the rules. He carries this big red book. He makes an entry into the big red book for this farmer who's borrowing the money. He says, okay, so on such and such date you borrowed this money. This is what I have written here. Now, you accept that you are going to repay 100% of what you have borrowed, and then another 100% of interest. Do you accept? Now, these are onerous terms and conditions which no man in his right mind should accept. But guess what? They were in need. They were desperate for food. They had been starving for a week before they had come to this landlord who would eventually enslave them. They accept. So they say, okay, at the end of this monsoon, at the end of 3 months, I am going to return 2 bags of rice for every bag of rice that I have borrowed from you. This is the kind of deal that was struck. And then the farmer puts his thumbprint. There's also another thing. They might have other terms and conditions which they say, oh yes, I voluntarily accept these terms and conditions. What are those terms and conditions? Terms and conditions would be something along the lines of, if I fail to return this loan, then my land will become yours. If I fail to return this loan, then I will send you my son, my eldest son, to work at your coffee plantation, etc., etc. These are the kind of terms and conditions. If I fail, I will send my wife to work at your house. And a lot of shit happened after that. It won't be just working at the house. You can guess what happened. This is a kind of thing that people voluntarily undertook out of ignorance of consequences or out of desperation. You've got loan sharks doing this, but it's not just the loan sharks currently. It's not just offer of loans that make people enter into this kind of bad transaction which takes them down a rabbit hole. It's also the concept of buying a dream house, which is one of the most prominent examples that I keep giving, or the possibility of getting leads for your business and someone's going to help you build your business, and he kind of spreads his tendrils into your wallet. He makes you commit to give him a bunch of money no matter what, and the deliverable is not there, and there is no transaction. You can't hold him accountable. So can you go to a civil court? Well, no, because there is no civil arrangement between the two of you. The transaction does not exist. There is no transaction. You have acknowledged that there is no transaction. You, the guy who gave the money, will yourself have written down, there is no transaction between us. You don't owe me anything. I fully understand that you are taking my money and you're not promising me anything, and so on and so forth. People do that. In addition to that, if there is a transaction that is admitted or suggested by the paperwork, the courts are so slow that it is practically impossible to enforce the transaction, the other side of the transaction. And so, for the most part, the scam, this entire juggernaut of a scam, continues without anyone stopping it. There's a lot more to explain. I am Krish the Urban Naxal, your friend. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan.